I am here with Kyle Page, independent business owner, soon to be launched No Remorse Coffee. We've been chit-chatting on Instagram. We have a mutual friend that brought us together for our, let's say, atypical views of the media narratives and such. And I'm excited to talk to you today.
Hey man, same. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the exact kind of energy we need.
Well, your guests so far, they've been Bitcoiners, and
Yeah.
they've been how do I say, not total maniacs. So,
I've
we're
been
definitely
I've been
changed.
pleasantly surprised. Oh, you want to change? Is that
Right.
what you said?
Yeah, that's gonna well your reputation for your style of guests is about to change.
Hey, that's good. It takes all kinds. I've actually been very, very pleased. I started doing this, just reaching out to strangers on the internet, and these are people I don't know. And so far, I got one more in the bag. 3 out of 3 of just cool, normal people, which I'm quite pleased with.
I would definitely say that about your first two guests. I mean, me only knowing like a little sliver about you and then not knowing anything about who your guests are. Again, they're just like typical people.
Mm.
You yourself, you've got a great, spoken word vernacular, and you can really make a conversation interesting. But then your guests have been super interesting people. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that you're doing.
Thanks. So right before we started, you said you wanted to say something might piss me off. I want to know.
Oh, so because you're so interesting, like I don't want it to turn into like me interviewing you for like the benefit of your growing listener base.
Oh
So like,
no, I'm
you know,
happy to talk about myself.
because so you and I are the same age.
Okay.
I just turned 37 in the beginning of June. And you'd said in one of your episodes that your kind of awakening moment was the accountability after you'd voted for Obama, and then all of a
Correct.
sudden you saw like this massive deployment of Marines to the Middle East, and the bombings continue and also ratchet up.
Yep.
And it was my thoughts coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
That was my exact moment with it. It was
Yeah.
the first presidential election that we had voted on, and what was McCain? Because I'll ask you, because no one else remembers this, but I have such a good feeling you're going to remember this.
Oh boy.
What was two of McCain's kind of slogans throughout his campaign trail?
Oh God. Was it
One of
bomb
them
bomb bomb Iran? That
one
song
of
he
them
did?
one of them he borrowed from from W.
Oh God.
And they even wrote this into Terminator Salvation, starring Christian Bale.
I'm embarrassed to admit I don't remember. Fill me
Stay the
in.
course.
Oh God,
You
you're
don't remember
right.
those words? Stay the course.
Stay the course.
I mean, Jon Stewart, like every intellectual, like as soon as W would utter the words "stay the course,"
Mm,
everybody, me included, we all lost our minds.
right.
And so the moment, and Obama's kind of slogan for the campaign trail was "No more stupid wars."
Mm.
So 2 weeks in, and he deploys, it was 30K just Marines.
It's insane.
I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
What do you think? Because that's not the norm. Most people are still under the impression that Barack Obama is the kindest, sweetest, most amazing president ever to exist. Like, what brought you to that realization? Like, what do you think it is? Because that I think is the biggest difference between most people.
Yeah. So for me, I've done a lot of thinking about it, and it's really just the difference of, are you somebody who can decide like what answer you want for the problem and what answer is going to get a result.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of people out there who they stick with like, oh no, I read this article, it said that cookie dough and pizza are like the optimal fat loss foods. I'm just going to stick with it. So it's like, sorry, but that's the answer that you want. It's not the one that's
Yeah.
going to get you a result, you know?
So it's fear of changing your worldview, like having to admit that like your political party is just as capable of evil as the other one.
That's a massive part of it. But moreover, it's a lot easier to sell somebody than to get them to understand that they've been sold. That's it. Like, and I've worked sales jobs. So like I've worked sales jobs where like you are 100% manipulating people out of their money. I mean, for a great product. Like I sold, just full disclosure, I sold exterior remodeling materials, so doors, windows, all sorts of stuff. I closed on a house down here in Austin. I outfitted my whole own house with all this stuff, and anyways, didn't sell anything and anybody anything they didn't need. But like, when you haven't heard of a company at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and then I show up at 5:30 in the afternoon, and at 8 p.m. I'm laying off a price for like, thousands and thousands of dollars. You have to be able to build a certain amount of trust in a very short amount of time.
Right.
That people have heard you and listened to you, and they trust you, and they know that they need something done.
Right.
And it's like, once you learn those tactics and you're able to look at, the corporate news media, whoever talking their shtick, you just see right through it.
Right.
And I mean, I also had the benefit of like, my mother was a master manipulator as well. So it's like, by the time I was, 15, I could look at somebody in any sort of a discussion or argument, be it like a teacher at school or, a friend's parent, be like, hey, you're saying this because you want this reaction. And then I'm supposed to be in a corner in a box thinking this. And so I'd like deconstruct the argument in front of them, and then they'd lose their mind.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What was that like, having a manipulator in an evil way? Well, what are we talking about here with your mom?
My mom's got evil genius syndrome. So yeah, from a really young age, probably from when I was like 9, I looked at both of my parents and I was like, I don't want anybody to see me the way I look at you for these reasons, and I don't want anybody to see me the way I look at you for these other reasons. And it's funny. I was in the hiring process. I got all the way to an offer of hire with Texas State Police when I first moved down here. But they didn't like answers like, who raised you? And I would say, my record collection. And they didn't like, why didn't you join the military? I'm like, because by the time I was 11, I'd seen every episode of the X-Files and listened to every Black Sabbath song there is. So
yeah, that's
for that stuff. It's like,
that doesn't sound like good orders taker answers.
Right. So I had a lot of freedom as a kid because I lived so long with my mom after the divorce, and I was really lucky to have a positive influence in the neighborhood.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
North, a small horse boarding community on the western Mass line of Connecticut. And I had this kid in the neighborhood who was like a teenager. I was, 9 years old. He was like 14, 15. And he got me into straight edge hardcore music. And like that whole cultural pocket of like affirmation, positive influence, your friends and be the strongest, most clear-minded individual that you can be, and just screw what people think, bring positive energy into the world, turn negativity into something that builds you up, doesn't break you down, all that stuff. I've run with that my whole life. I broke edge when I turned like 31, just to like sip some nice whiskey and have a cigar in the backyard with my dog, listening to, a podcast or a gun review or something. But yeah, growing up in that scene and that environment, it really shaped the rest of me. As did like a lot of the movies and stuff that I was watching. Like I always admired the guy who like sacrifices himself to the monster in the horror movie so that like his friends can get away, maybe, like I always liked those those types of strong characters that they're for a cause. The
Right.
noble warrior type person.
Totally.
But I'm not into Bitcoin, so I'm not fighting on that front. And I know we can't do this without talking about Bitcoin, like why I didn't get into it.
I am curious. I won't try and sell you. I'm not like psycho about it.
I'm sold on it.
Yeah.
Sold on it. It's just that I'm one of these people who's like decidedly that I've missed the boat on it.
Oh, I don't believe that, especially right now. Come on, man. It's down so fucking low.
What are we talking? Is it like $500 for a Bitcoin?
You don't have to buy a full Bitcoin, right?
But I would like to.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm kind of. So here's the thing. Like I'm obsessive. I go all in on stuff.
Right.
It's like one of the reasons that I could never partake in any kind of substance abuse, because I know I just like
yeah
all in. And so yeah, what are we at?
I think it's well, here it is right here. It's 21,600 for a full Bitcoin. That's down from an all-time high of 69,000, to give you an idea of how much it's on sale right now.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you don't have to buy a full. I see that you don't believe this, but a lot of people who don't own Bitcoin think you have to have a full Bitcoin, like you have to drop the whole load up front. But no, man. I mean, if you're, I had the sense, because you sent a clip that was like some guy being like, Bitcoin's going to zero. And I'm like,
that's Dan Pena. You don't know who he is?
No. I feel like I've seen that clip before.
Maybe it's. I would imagine that it would have made its rounds within your community, but so that guy's Dan Pena. Long story short, he knows money,
right?
And my good friend, who is a Bitcoiner and a 3D printer, if you know what, and I think you do. There's apparently like this big buzz that the government actually started Bitcoin.
Yes, I've heard this as well.
Yeah, to separate people from their money and then tank it. Not unlike the very, analog version of the controlled demolition on our economy that we've seen since 2020.
Dude, the fact that it feels like every decision they're making is on purpose to destroy the value of the dollar is kind of, it's freaking me out. Like with this whole thing with Ukraine, where they literally.
How long have you been privy to this though?
For like money printing, the idea of money printing being bad and modern monetary theory being bullshit, which is, for anyone listening, it's just literally academics being like, you can print as much money as you want and it will have zero negative effects.
Yeah, to which my answer is always, then why doesn't beach sand hold the same fucking value as gold?
Yeah, exactly. And also, how are you ignoring every example in history that has shown that that's not the case?
Yeah, or even Spain, after all their conquests, they had so much gold that inflation hit.
Oh wow!
Not a lot of people know about that one.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in that kind of a mindset, honestly, until probably once they started printing trillions at a time. I'm like, this can't be good. Like, I've never heard the number trillion come out of a politician's
mouth. You're talking like 2012-ish, 2010?
I would say I started paying attention to actual like money and economics in 2008 when everything went to hell.
Okay.
I was reading Matt Taibbi. He was writing about how the banks work, how the whole housing market exploded, and all the.
How about Ron Paul? Are you a Ron Paul guy at all?
I really liked what Ron Paul was saying when he was running. I don't know if that makes me
Fiscal
a libertarian or not.
That was his big thing. Fiscal cliff.
Yeah. So I had like moments of paying attention and like tuning into it and being like, that sounds correct to me, but I didn't really like dive in and really do the research. I would say until probably a couple of years ago, to be honest, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I finally started really reading and listening to people who were saying, just talking about it at all, because no one in media is talking about money printing or the
Right.
state of anything. They
Right.
try to obscure that kind of thing as much
I
as possible.
I think I sent you a link to what's her name talking about it. Blonde woman. I think she was in Senate. She was a prosecutor in, in a bunch of big cases as well. Something Austin, Catherine Jean Austin or something like that. I'm butchering her.
I'll take a look.
I'll,
I don't think I saw that. Maybe I
I'll
missed
get
it.
it to you. I'll get it to you afterwards. But like, yeah, I found her and or refound her because she was talking in 2020 about this whole paper trail of like places that were it's inside cities that were experiencing the most amount of destructive damage
Mm.
during the Blam Tifa riots, and it was all places where like bank cartels wanted to bring down the real estate value,
Oh man.
and then shell companies that they had were buying it all up like immediately.
Ugh.
No, don't even worry about go ahead, take your insurance money. We'll pay you whatever you're asking for this place. You don't have to rebuild your business. Just you don't even want to be in the city anymore. I mean, look what they
Yeah.
just did to you.
Ugh.
That sort of stuff is the offers that they're making people. But yeah, the whole systematic thing, and this is what I love saying to Trump supporters is like, don't you know that he campaigned on auditing the Federal Reserve for like a little bit there. It wasn't like one of the top campaign platforms, but it was all business as usual.
Yeah.
And he was on pace to be the third consecutive president to double the national debt.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though Obama had all the programs and all the handouts and all the foreign aid and all the Trump and W. Bush were the only presidents that I remember issuing out stimulus checks.
Totally.
It's like, oh great, this is gonna be awesome. Who else is getting money and how much?
Yeah. Oh my God.
If I'm getting what was it? It was like $800 or $1,200
Yeah.
with W, and then it was like $1,200 to $1,600 with Trump. It's like, then what are
Yeah.
conglomerates and companies and stuff
Who's
like
getting
that?
the $8 to $12 million
Right.
check?
Yeah. It's
God.
just, yeah. So my thing with Bitcoin is I'm ultimately, if things go the way that I think that they're going to go, then what's really going to be currency is going to be also America's original voting ballot. It looks like that. Okay. So
For the listeners, he held up a bullet.
in this book that I'm writing, the main guy has been predicting some stuff, not far out, but like, for example, this guy at the beginning of COVID, when he saw people fist fighting for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, but in Central Texas, gasoline was like $2.13 a gallon. So he went and he stockpiled gasoline because he already had toilet paper and stuff at home, and then ended up, saving a few bucks a year or two later when gas started going through the roof. But yeah, man, I knew that something was going to happen with all the leaps and bounds that like the private sector was making under Trump. I was like, something's going to happen, and all this is going to get reversed, the flip of a switch. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be some massive crisis with China. I don't know if it's going to be an act of war, or I don't know if it's going to be one of these diseases that they got. My favorite musician ever predicted a lot of this stuff. This guy named Glenn Danzig. He was on Jonesy's Jukebox, the guitarist from the Sex Pistols. And in 2017, he was talking about how, the government's got like loads of viruses and stuff that can just kill people or make them sick or just drive up stockholders, portfolio for vaccines and medications and stuff. And lo and behold, my wife's also a scientist, so she confirms like all this shit.
That's cool.
I can't talk about exactly what she does and the people that her company is client to, but it's enough.
It is interesting that pre-COVID, it was the norm and the talking point that the left hated big pharma, thought they were corrupt, disgusting, and that disappeared in
oh, isn't it weird? Yeah, same thing with Julian Assange.
Yeah.
You and I remember holding hands with everybody, talking about the latest WikiLeaks and our outrage about the W administration.
Totally.
And then, but that's the thing. It's like, if in the face of facts you hold on to your opinion, you're not a good person. You're a fanatic.
Yeah.
That's it. And like, I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual, sure. Is there a higher power, a higher being, creation? I'm open to a lot of stuff, right? But you got to think and acknowledge that Hitler was an atheist, and Stalin and all, they're atheists, staunch atheists, because they want people to worship the state.
Yeah.
And
they are.
Yeah, exactly. They totally are. Like the squad is, like supposed to have this like sanctimonious, level of worship.
Totally.
Before them.
It's
and then
creepy.
The same thing with the Repubs
and Trump.
Like when I talk about how I call him Dan McCain so much, I forget his last name, the Navy SEAL with the
Crenshaw.
Yeah, Crenshaw. I know a lot of combat vets, like special operators and stuff. And like, I was at a cigar lounge with a guy who's like, run operations with Crenshaw's buddies, and one of his closest friends is the guy who saved Crenshaw's life after he got blowed up. And when I'm sitting there, I'm like, look, I could high five the guy till it hurts. I'd love to go to a range with him. Whatever. But when it comes to his voting record, that's what I'm most concerned about, dude. And like this, Navy operator who I'm hanging out with, he didn't know like fuck all about it.
Of course.
But he's still pissed at me because like, I got an opinion.
Yeah. That's how it works. Yeah, man. It is bizarre that it seems, at least to me, that the average person has replaced like God and the idea of a higher power with literally just worshiping the U.S. government.
Right.
Which is psycho.
Yeah. No, I totally, I'm totally right there with you. But that's what they need, craziness. Yeah.
Just like the fear of the unknown, you think drives people to like, I need a stable, secure something to latch my fears onto. Like they will make it okay.
My thing of it is this: like, you dial your mindset all the way back to the U.S. Revolution for Independence, right? Those guys had so much to risk. Their farms are getting burnt down. Their families were getting arrested and interrogated, like brute force. All sorts of unspeakable stuff at the hands of this authoritarian, oppressive monarchy. Today, not only are people so much softer, because you got to think like right now, central heating and air conditioning in your home is an extremely new amenity, right? And like back in the Revolution times, it's like they didn't have insulation in their places. Like, you had a fire, or you had your home built up off the ground high enough where you could have sheep and goat packed in underneath, so that way their collective body heat bled through the floorboards.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was done in the village where my family's from in Italy, and I'm talking about just not even 100 years ago.
Yeah,
it's like the Dark Ages up there on Montebro, where my family's from. So So you think about that, and then you just consider that today we live with the highest level of amenity and easement of life that there possibly could be. So not
Yeah.
only are people not mentally and especially physically capable of actually uh, confronting adversity and
Mm-hmm.
oppression in
Mm-hmm.
like the very real way that it needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
not super gluing your hands to pavement like climate alarmists are doing across Europe, or making posts or trying to like brainwash kids into like rejecting their born gender, or handing your money to the NRA like so many lame treats do. That'll do it. I got a guy.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, you don't have a guy. Because like I sit here like in Texas, and I used to be anti-gun, right? And 3 months of living in New York City, which I was there for like over a decade, will cure you of that, if you have a brain. And so I testify in support of the Second Amendment down here all the time, and like I'll wear like a pro Second Amendment shirt of some nature, and somebody will be like, oh yeah, I'm all the way with you with that. I'm like, cool, awesome. Were you at the state capitol recently, testifying for constitutional carry, or like, to combat any of the gun grabs that are? Oh, I got a guy for that. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. I'm like, it's on you, dude. Like, so
Yeah.
so lame treats really, they totally blow my mind with that stuff where they're like super fast to pass the buck.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a guy who turned me off of conservative politics because he was like just one of those blindly obedient, W. Bush is the best president we ever had guys.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came down to visit me, while Texas legislature was in session, I'm like, look, I know you're only in town for a couple days. Like, we're going to hang out, but you're coming with me to the state capitol because I got to testify on some bills. Like, I'm a lead activist for Gun Owners of America, Texas. And he's like, all right, cool. So we're driving, we drive in there, and gorgeous state capitol that we have. He's like, I haven't been to the Connecticut state capitol since I was on a field trip in middle school. Now, keep in mind, like, it's a 30-minute drive door to door. My dad has worked out of and around Hartford, Connecticut forever. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker. That's why I had to move to shit-ass Texas just to keep more of my paycheck and decide if I needed more than 10 bullets to defend my life.
Yeah.
And I can't start a business in Connecticut because I'm going to get punished for any level of success or ownership.
Yeah.
I'm like, you sat on your ass. So it's the easement of life thing. The same reason why, obesity levels just keep going up and up and up and up and up. All of it. That's really why nothing's really going to change.
Yeah.
So some of the guys that are most in serious denial of this stuff are combat vets.
Mm.
I'd like to name the guy, but I'll just say that like he's a very famous combat vet. He's got a really successful company where he makes things like body armor. He does loads of training. Anyways, he hears somebody talking about like the actual state of where America's at right now, and he gets so pissed off. This is a guy who lives in Arizona. It's like, motherfucker, are you trying to act like you don't know what's going on at your border, and that it is a whole like set up thing between like your state, your federal government, to make this invasion happen and bring all this like this hellacious stuff over? And then when you want to talk about voting, it's like I wish that voting really counted, but with electronic voting, like all the ballot harvesting stuff that we're seeing get exposed from like Project Veritas and stuff like that, and Whitney Webb, and like real independent journalism and whistleblowers and you name it. I mean, come on, like, because they just want to sit there and say, oh, we'll just vote what? Like you don't even know who's on your local board of education, dude, and you got kids.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just as guilty of that as well. Like not knowing the local people, but I'm with you in that I'm not convinced any of these fucking people running will do anything different than what is already happening.
Or be allowed in.
Yeah.
Or be allowed in.
Totally.
I mean, it's like,
the fact that Democrats viciously fight to keep third parties off ballots is insane. Did you see that like text bot that was going out? They apparently got a list of like people who signaled they were going to go independent, and like all these people got like a MoveOn.org style text being like, "Hey, we noticed you're thinking about voting independent. That helps Republicans. Will you please switch back to Democrat?" Like,
Yeah,
dude, it's
yeah, no,
evil.
it's insane. Yeah, it's insane. I voted Gary Johnson in 2016. His speechwriter was a friend of a friend. I got to meet Gary and Bill. You know, but it's just that they won't be allowed to. The same thing with like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I love hearing Bernie talk.
Yeah.
I love hearing him point out all the issues and the problems. I just come to a screeching halt when he starts talking about his proposed solutions.
I know.
I mean, in a nutshell, with Bernie, he exposes and points out like the inherent greed of men, and self-interest, special interest, this and that. And it's like, okay, so instead of castrating that stuff, castrate the bull, right? Instead of castrating that stuff, he's like, no, we need more power and we need to merge, industry and government. And it's like, what? Like, no.
Yeah. There's like no, me and my friends just, the thing we keep coming back to is there are no fucking leaders in this country, and I think in the world. Like, I don't think anyone in any other country is being like, yeah, we got it figured out. We actually have people who know what they're doing and are leading us in the right direction. I think everyone is feeling this at the same time.
It's just,
and it makes sense because they're all on the same fucking team in Davos, literally getting their talking points and then going out and enacting identical policies. The fact that Build Back Better was coming out of the mouths of 100 different leaders of countries all at the same time, and fucking Joe Biden is pretending he made it up. Like, people need to wake the fuck up. It's depressing.
Well, the thing is that people have three choices to respond to all that just emphatic stuff. It's, you're going to be in just total bold-faced denial about it, okay, which is one, and we've all seen that. People are going to accept it, but they're going to make excuses about it.
I have a lot of friends that's where they're at.
Dude, a German Jew who I'm buddies with down here, I'm showing him this stuff, and he goes, look, man, the total enslavement of people like you and me underneath like a ruling class and 1%, it's going to happen. So just, it's just be happy that it's not going to be all the way there in your lifetime.
Ugh.
And I'm like, dude, I had a lifetime. I have a lifetime because of like thousands and thousands of years of evolution where my ancestry avoided death and enslavement. From everything from like, cold element, freezing to death, to starvation, to, warring village raiders, you name it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to this point where like, I lived to see, that like girls shaving their pussies becomes fashionable, and eating ass is like an awesome thing. Like, I get to live it now, and I just want to like throw that all away for my kid and my grandkids. No.
Yeah.
No.
The lay down and accept it energy is very, very strong with the average person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then the third choice is like, where do these motherfuckers live?
Yeah. Well, you're seeing that in Sri Lanka right now. Did you see these videos?
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude.
Your rights are not being stolen. They're being killed by people who have names and addresses.
100%. Like, It'll get to that place. There's a saying that I love. I can't remember who said it, but every country is 3 missed meals away from a revolution.
Exactly.
And
Like when, yeah, when COVID first happened, and I know that you talked about like the beginning days of it with one of your guests, but when COVID happened, and people are fist fighting for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, nobody really knew like what the implications. All we saw was like cell phone video of like people like just getting bodied, like just dropping in the middle of the street, like doing a face plant, like plank man challenge, but they didn't mean to. And so I sold like all of my guns except for the ones that my wife and I could carry out the door.
Right.
And I was like rationing my training ammo. So then that way, like if we had to bug out, like I could have what's called a combat loadout. So like you've only got 300 rounds on you, like what you can actually like run and climb up and get over a wall with on you. Cause all these like boomer prepper idiots who like their waistline is insane and their blood pressure is garbage and all that, like they sit there, they like, oh yeah, I own 50 guns. Like, can you hold them all? Like, can you shoot any one of them good? Like, is any one of them like an actual endurance tested weapon? And like, what are you gonna do with all that ammo? Like, you're stocking up shit for other people to take from you.
Totally, that's hilarious.
That's all that it is. So like,
you're
for me,
creating an ammo depot for someone else to fucking snatch.
Yeah,
hilarious.
Exactly. Yeah,
dude,
you're like somebody had said to me the other day, they're like, oh yeah, get an armored vehicle with this and that, and then that way you can just hold. I'm like, so you just want to be a rolling Walmart for when like there's just, a downed tree. Like, are you gonna have a chainsaw in there? Like, you in a bug out kit, like you honestly do need a chainsaw.
That's great.
But
they're like building the turtle van from Ninja Turtles, like with like
I can't believe you just said that. So this is where we're really kindred spirits. Okay?
Yeah, apparently.
So during COVID, wear a mask everywhere, right? This was my mask. Casey Jones.
Hell yeah, brother.
Right?
That's great. I like the I voted sticker on it. I voted for chaos.
Yeah. So if things really go sideways, like I am assuming this guy is my Mad Max end of the world.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it was cool. Like every now and then somebody would get it. They'd like, I'd be in the grocery store and like somebody who like maybe worked there would be like, Casey Jones. And like, Gunga, Gunga. And then like I cosplayed as him a couple times in New York City, and like one time I was walking up to the Halloween parade, and this cop, like the big heavy duty metal barricades.
Yeah.
This cop and like his two buddies, they're like, yo, Casey Jones over here, and they opened up the barricade for me for easement to get to the parade.
That's amazing.
So I was like, right this way, Casey. And I was like, fuck yeah. So
yeah, he's like he does have that kind of same place in my heart, like Batman, or he's a cool character for sure. Just a guy who's like sick of the bullshit and grabbed a bat and a hockey stick and he's gonna go fix things.
Yeah, he's gonna do the right thing, but he's not gonna deny, genetically programmed human instinct that like, okay, like it's my corrupt city prosecutor that got these guys out of jail the last 3 times, come back into my neighborhood and be slinging drugs and raping people. So, what else can I do? I'm not going to lock him up and feed him forever in the basement of my mom's apartment building. I'm gonna knock this guy's brains out of his fucking head with this cricket bat.
That's great.
Yeah, Casey's the man. That started a whole thing with like, interest in redheads as well. April O'Neil.
Oh.
Like, to know that Casey was getting in there, it's like, all right. But
I gotta see what it's like.
I'm super counterintuitive of my look. Like I stayed like a BMX riding, straight edge punk kid. I was just like obsessed with horror movies and stuff.
That's great. You know, I will say a lot of like straight up like pretty programmed Democrat voter types in New York City are talking I need to buy a gun, which is
Oh,
I've never seen that before.
I'll do you one better. I'll do you one better. So, like as you previously mentioned, I'm a major Second Amendment activist, and I take no pleasure in seeing how many company owners and companies they either don't say or do anything to keep people in the loop on, like, you know, hey, here's a Republican maybe in your district who's supporting red flag laws or whatever. Which, for people who don't know what a red flag law is, it's basically like, if you are somebody who talks in your office or to a therapist or anyone else, like, yeah, I'm thinking of buying a gun. Not even like, I want to get an AR and like thousands of rounds of ammo and like start training for, you know, like that Kyle guy that I saw on Extremely Live. If you just say, I want to buy a gun, and the person who hears this first or second handed has some agenda in their mind about guns and not even about you, they can pick up a phone and send the feds to your place to take all your shit. And then
the way I heard it,
as Trump said about red flag laws, take the guns first, due process later. So it's like when I'm talking to, you know, the never Trumpers, I'm like, oh, what are your top three, you know, policy-based reasons to hate Trump? And they don't have anything. I'm like, well, I'll start. I mean, he's super anti-gun. And they go, what? I'm like, oh yeah, he supported red flag laws. He did a 180 on suppressors. He did a 180 on talking about national reciprocity for concealed carry permit holders. Like, just go down the list. Anyway, but my buddy Mike Mahalski, who's an owner of Sons of Liberty Gun Works down here in Texas, he is an activist, and he has been on, you know, a few panels, local news, city councils, all this stuff about guns and gun violence and everything, like all the questions. And so he'll be in a green room, or, you know, afterwards, after the debate and you know, the bloodbath or whatever of debate, and he exchanges information, personal information, with these local leaders of every town, Moms Demand Action, you name it. When people were fighting for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, his phone is ringing a lot. Hey, Mike, it's Debbie. Hey, Mike, it's Kurt. I need a gun, but my gun store is like sold out of stuff, or they don't have what I want. Oh, really? What do you want? I need an AR-15 with as many bullets as it can hold, full blast, fully, you know, I don't even want fully semi-auto. I want fully auto. And just mail it to my house. Here's my address. And he's like, okay, so again, like, you've got absolutely no understanding of the 20,000 laws that are already on the federal books. You know, like, I just can't do it.
Right.
You know, they were not calling him up asking for a single shot black powder musket.
Yeah, for real.
And that's where you see, like, with the left, their values run as deep as a plate of water, as I say. All right, like,
to be fair, I think that's both sides of the opinion right now, but yes, I would say the average person has zero actually held beliefs. It's whatever the flavor is that month, that year, and the second they're told to flip their opinion, they'll do it. It's insane.
Well, it's the same. The best example of that stuff for both sides is, you know, everyone who is up in arms about, like, you know, limiting entry into the U.S. from Middle Eastern countries, right? And you go out and you ask them, like, okay, well, I work for such and such organization. You make one up. I work for such and such organization, and we're just taking down lists of names of people and their addresses of where we can send some refugees and some migrants. And they go, and you talk to, like, the pro-life people.
Totally.
At the same time, they're like, you know, get rid of abortion, get rid of the day after pill, you know? And you're like, okay, well, I work for such and such adoption agency, and we're looking for people that are going to take some, you know,
unwanted
some kids. How many kids do you want in your house? And you go, oh, no.
Not in my backyard, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that's where it's like,
Yeah.
all right, like there's a lot of guardrails today on like where I am with abortion.
Mm-hmm.
My mom worked at an abortion clinic
Oh,
when I was
wow.
growing up, and I visited her at work. I don't even remember the context of like how that happened, but it's in Hartford, Connecticut. Clearly not in a upper middle class white neighborhood. It was, and I was in like the upstairs of it. It used to be like a huge mansion when all of Hartford was like just gorgeous and had loads of money. It was an industrial hub of America. But it was a renovated like mansion that was in this now shit neighborhood. And I was like in the upstairs attic kind of area, which was a break room, watching horror movies like all day. and every now and then, like when I was changing VHS cassettes, I'd like run down the stairs to like, see what my mom's doing. And, I get to see the women who are like, yeah, just missed my period. Like, or I missed my period like X days ago. Like I need to get a pregnancy test. And like, boom, they instantly schedule the appointment. I'm like, I don't want to say responsible, baby killing, but like this whole thing where, I saw a picture of a woman who's like into her third trimester, and she's got written on her belly, "Not a human yet."
Yeah, I saw that as well.
It's maybe I sent it to you. I don't know, but like, just the removal of self with this stuff. So I'm into heartbeat laws. And I'm really into the day after pill, and I'm really into whatever it takes for women to gain control over their own body, like say doing simple things like figuring out their schedule, their cycle, and figuring out, if they really like the guy that they're allowing inside their body, and figuring out if he's wearing a condom when he's inside their body, and figuring out if he blew his bag inside them, because these are like, I mean, I've had sex with I don't know how many women, an uncountable number of times, and I have an inhuman sperm count. Like it's actually been checked on. And
total Chad over here,
dude. Fucking. Yeah. I mean, when my wife and I were first trying for a kid, we get into this conversation. Well, I don't even know how many girls you fucked, and you don't have a kid running around. That's impossible. You probably got a problem. So like, I go to get it checked, and I'm sitting there in the office, and I just pulled out my phone and started to hit record. I'm like, all right, doc. So before you read that piece of paper, which you're just holding in your hand for the first time ever, what is an average healthy, sperm count? She says it's X, it's this number. I'm like, okay, cool. And what is like comedically high? And she's like, she rolls her eyes. She'd be like, I'd say 40 million, strong swimmers, like fully mobile, strong swimmers. I'm like, okay, where am I at? And she's like, you're over 70 million. And I'm like, okay, so I can get like 4 girls pregnant today. And she's like, yeah, I don't know how your fucking load doesn't blow out your wife's back like a shotgun blast, actually. Just like, if I jerk off on the floor, like it'll move by itself, like a school of fish.
Flubber.
Yeah, there you go. Same color, too.
Oh, God. That's great. Back to red flag laws real quick. I just want to drop this because I think it's an interesting point. People have been saying it's like stop and frisk on steroids, but you would be against stop and frisk, but for red flag laws doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because they want it to go after people like me. They want it to go after a straight white guy who doesn't think exactly like they think. That's all that it boils down to. And the same thing with like, other laws that Trump got passed, like his attack on free speech. Yeah. A lot of people don't know this, but Trump introduced the first law against free speech, against the First Amendment. And that came on the heels of Ilhan Omar, bad mouthing Israel. One of the many times that she did that. And so, all that somebody has to do in the future is white out where it says Israel and say like anything, you know? And then Trump also like a really cool thing, which was like kind of a mic drop thing and a gotcha, whatever, to the libtards, was Trump made the KKK, he listed them as a terrorist organization.
Oh,
well, it's really kind of loosely worded in there. Like, are you, you know, you're a sympathizer, you're a supporter, you're not like a fledgling, you know, honorary member with like the hood and the cloak in your closet, sure, but you know, like you're into it. Maybe you're thinking about getting a 4 points tattoo, whatever. So anybody can white that shit out and like bend it to however they want.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing I don't understand is like everyone calling for like more limiting laws in general. It's like you're old enough now to see how any law can be used in any way to fuck anybody.
And even like I still listen to NPR and stuff like that, right? So yesterday at work I'm listening to NPR. And it's interesting because after this shooting in Illinois, the Highland Park shooting, they're talking about like, but like they just can't deny it. Like how much gun control on top of the 20,000 federal laws that Illinois has in place, and the fact that the kid was already on an FBI watch list. Yeah. Always. Like he was making these like, you know, SoundCloud raps about how he has his own, you know, FBI agent, which is like a joke that even, you know, people like you or I make, you know, you're, you know, sitting in bed at dark 30 and, you know, your fiance, your wife's in the shower and, you know, you want to crank one out watching something kind of devious and you just wave hi to your personal, you know, NSA guy before you do it, or maybe after, and maybe during. And
it's the only way I can get off.
So this kid was, you know, really open about that stuff.
Yeah.
And yet Illinois, who has red flag laws in place, and New York does too. And like the Buffalo shooter was already known to law enforcement. And everybody's on SSRIs, which not a lot of people know like the process of buying a gun, but there's a federal thing which was, you know, supported by and like co-drafted by the NRA. It's called a NICS form, and it's a true or false, yes or no thing, like 12 points, and it ranges from like, have you ever even been arrested for spousal abuse? Have you ever been on, you know, under like close psychiatric care, which includes, you know, have you been prescribed psychoactive, altering or moderating drugs? Right. And the thing is like, you know, even people will pop on these things. Like the shooter from Pulse nightclub in Florida, he popped on one of them, and he was also asking about like, you know, level 4 body armor, which they didn't sell at the gun store, and the gun shop, they're like, hey, yeah, we just rejected a guy's sale. He's also asking about body armor. He seems like a weirdo. You know, I kind of wanted him to eat a ham sandwich while he was here, but he said no. So they contacted their sheriff's department, did nothing. You know, again, back to my buddy Mike, who runs Sons of Liberty Gun Works down in San Antonio. At one of the things that I went to, he stood up and he talked about how many NICS forms he rejected, and it was like, you know, a stack. And then he called out one of his buddies who owns a gun range / gun store in the room. He's like, you know, Dave, how many NICS rejections did you have? And he's like, so far this year, 74. And he's like, okay, so you had to report all those and you did. He's like, yeah. He's like, how many of them have the cops followed up on? It's a federal offense. Like you have, boom, like I think it's like a $250,000 to $500,000 fine, boom, and then you know, you're looking at jail time.
Damn.
And and so the laws on the books don't get enforced.
Right.
And people want to say more and more and more. So it's crazy. And my response to that stuff is, it's like, okay, cool. Red flag laws, you think this is going to be like the end of mass shootings? Great. This is it. This is the law. Okay. Well, let's look at all these high profile mass shootings, because they're not the only ones.
Mm-hmm.
New York City averages 4 mass shootings a week. No one wants to talk about it
Yeah.
because they all happen in black nightclubs and black, neighborhoods.
It is very selectively reported when a mass shooting happens.
Oh yeah, and if they find out that a shooter is of a certain demographic, they drop the story like
Yeah.
a paper bag full of wet squirrels.
100%.
So it's like, okay, so this is the law that's going to end mass shootings. There's 20,000 laws on the books federally. Which ones do you want to get rid of? They obviously didn't work. They obviously didn't do anything. Which ones do you want to get rid of in exchange for this one that's actually going to do what you need it to do? And they'll never say.
Yeah.
Like there'll just be smoke coming out of their ears because it's whatever.
Yeah. It's hard to reason with people logically like that because they just, like you said, they're kind of bought into their opinion, and getting someone to how did you put it? Someone who's already sold.
You can't convince somebody that they've already been sold. The worst thing in the world is for somebody to admit that they've been suckered.
Yeah.
And especially you think about people who, say they go vegan, and then they have to deal with health problems that they didn't have before. It's like, all right, so how many of your teeth do you need to get pulled? And how much an AIDS patient do you need to look like? And you've lost your inability to pick up your child. But it's like you see what I'm talking about, or imagine if everybody saw what Bernie Madoff was doing with their money, and they're like, oh no, good dude, great guy, he'll turn around, he knows what he's doing. I'm just gonna let this sit. No, it's like the first sign of an issue, get rid of it. Maybe this wasn't the answer that I needed. So it's
yeah, human nature, man. It's very weird. Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. Laws aren't preventing mass shootings. What causes these people?
Why can't we just outlaw murdering a child in the face?
Yeah, really.
Oh, wait, that's really? Yeah, no, it's. And again, you and I are the same age, so you and I both remember that
Columbine.
Well, not just Columbine, but all of the child suicide awareness campaigns that happened between 97 and even in the 80s. You remember? Have you ever seen the movie Trainspotting?
Yeah.
So you know that choose life, choose the compact disc, the holiday.
Yeah.
That choose life. That was a that was an anti-suicide campaign.
Right.
They also wrote into the movie Heathers.
Oh yeah.
Before that, and when you watch the Jitterbug video of Wham, George Michael and I think the guy's name is Andrew from Wham, they were wearing in that video for Jitterbug, they were wearing says "Choose Life" in big bold letters. So everyone wants to drop that fatherless rates, the disassociation of parents with their kids, letting TV, then the internet raise their kids. These all have catastrophic effects on children's mental ability to go through natural mental development phases. And then all of a sudden you have somebody who's completely disillusioned and intimidated by life.
Yeah.
I've known 2 kids that have killed themselves that I saw it coming, and I tried to talk them out of the hole of just dismal what's the point shit. Didn't work. Don't feel bad about it. Wasn't my place to do anything more than I'd done. But nobody wants to admit that the mass shooting stuff is a symptom of the mental health crisis in America. You look at the kid from Highland Park, and it's that kid never had a male figure around him to show him how to stand up straight. He never had a guy in his life to tell him the importance of bring a certain energy into a room.
Right.
how to interview for a job.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, talking with people, interfacing with people is something you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, the same way that, like, when you're a kid, and you're in your like real adolescence, maybe a toddler, you figure out not to touch a hot fucking pan. So you got to figure out the same thing when it comes to talking to people as you're, you know, moving out of adolescence into your, you know, formative teenage years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy because you and I were like the last generation to see what the interface of screens and social media and internet. I don't know about you, but like for me, I was like the last one of all my friends to even get a flip phone.
Yeah.
Or a cell phone.
I was in college when I got my first cell phone.
Freshman year.
Yep.
Stay in contact. Your parents got it for you. Stay in contact with me.
No, I got it. I got it for myself because it's like you're in college. A girl wants to text you. You gotta have a phone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, and texting back then. You know.
It's wild how far it's all come.
I hate touchscreens, dude. I fucking hate them. I loved the slider droid phones.
Oh,
just like
yeah.
Keyboard on them.
Totally.
Done. You know.
I had the one that was like you could flip up or to the side, and you had I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, you had the whole keyboard.
Was that one of the Sony phones?
It may have been.
Right.
I can't even remember now.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and I talked about this at one of the city council meetings that I went to, because there's a bunch of kids in the room.
Mm.
It's like, you guys got to understand, like, that being an activist and all, it's not supplemental, and it's not a replacement for developing your own character and personality.
Yeah.
You can't just decide that you're going to be this thing, you know,
Yeah.
which, you know, I decided traits that I was going to embody.
Mm.
And my experiences have like changed some of them, but strengthened other ones through the years, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, that's like my favorite thing to tell people is, like, in like just the gun debate or whatever, it's like, what does it say to you that every argument you're giving me, I've said it, I've thought it, I felt it, I wanted to carry a spear for it. You know, were you super pro gun, and did you understand that, like, America's first gun control was enacted just like months after the signing of the 13th Amendment? And why? And everything else has just been building off of that and building off of that. Like, did you come to where you're at because you thought the way that I do?
No.
And then until you knew better, you know?
Yeah.
Or because right now you're just recycling, you know, weapons of war on the streets. It's like, you know, motherfucker, a rock is a weapon of war if you try hard enough. Talk to Palestinians.
Yeah, for real.
Which ironically enough, like, you know, libtards, they want to support Palestine. They want to throw money to Ukraine so that they can buy 30 caliber rounds for their full auto AKs. You know,
it makes no sense, man. It just, I just search out people who are rational, who are able to listen to people they disagree with. You know, like, there's a handful of people like that here. But it is the exception. It is not the rule. And it's not. It's very scary. It makes you think that, like, things are going to get much worse before they get better. I'm reading this book. It's called The Fourth Turning. And it's like a generational theory of why empires collapse. And we're just in this time period where nothing you can do can prevent this coming moment.
Exactly.
And it's like, so don't be afraid, just prepare and find your people and get through it, because it always restarts. It always gets better again.
I got some questions for you. I got some questions for you.
Okay.
So with that understanding, so I'll say this first. For our point, it's way scarier because the technology angle of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at, like, what Trump rolled in with all those COVID-19 relief bills and the building of smart cities. Mm-hmm. So anyone who doesn't know about that, look into, like, what Whitney Webb has uncovered about a lot of it. Um, Basically, the same way that a China or just authoritarian government has like heaps of street cameras that have your facial recognition, integrated into it. They've got robots on the streets that are monitoring, your device. Like your device is always pinging. So like, you know, David McGruber, is walking, southbound on this block at this time. They got tabs on everybody. They know your vaccine status. They know your bank account. They got access pipeline to your social media activity, like who else you're hanging out with,
Totally.
You name it. So Trump rolled in all that stuff. And Google is the one who's, we're on a Google call right now. So like,
yeah.
But that technology is here. They didn't have that like back during the French Revolution.
Yeah.
They didn't have that, even, less than, was it 70, 80 years ago with the battle for Athens. So if people don't know, like there's an actual like violent uprising when a bunch of Dixiecrats were trying to prevent some black people and Republicans from voting. And so a bunch of fresh off the boat from kicking the shit out of Germans and Japs, World War II vets, they went to their local armory and they grabbed full auto Browning machine guns, Tommy guns. They had their 1911s and lever guns, pump guns, whatever. And they went and they shot the shit out of the sheriff. Nobody knows who was there. Now it's like the way that people are groomed about it. You got special operators who are like Facebook living, room entries and shit when they're going to snatch up targets and stuff. It's crazy. Like,
yeah.
The
tech angle is very freaky. And then you add in the fact that they're going to launch a central bank digital currency to replace the physical dollar, and they can turn your ability to buy goods and services off with a switch.
And that stuff, that's another thing I wanted to talk about because you touched on that before with a different guest. So my buddy Mike, who I'm mentioning for the third time, Sons of Liberty Gun Works, San Antonio, Texas.
Nice.
1776, motherfucker. So he has had his PayPal account, his mom's PayPal account killed.
Yep.
Like all sorts of different accounts are just like dead because the majority of his transactions are for firearms. And it's like with his personal PayPal account or his mom's PayPal account or his ex-wife's PayPal account, that stuff getting killed. Like that just gets back to, the British Crown being like, oh, you're in league with such and such.
Yeah, 100%.
We're gonna vet these charges.
All of them, all like the swipe companies, like like what is it, Strip or Stripe or something like that.
I don't keep up on any of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
all of them though.
The last digital currency thing that I was up on is Venmo. That's as recent as I am. I know I've forgotten more of them than I know actually work right now. All right, so the technology aspect of it and the surveillance aspect is super scary because it's like you're talking about being a cyclical thing. Well, how the fuck do we get out of it? So that's not an actual question. My question is, you're about to be a dad, right? And I am a dad. I'm a new dad. Like my kid's 9 months old right now, and we're looking to have more kids. So my two questions for you is like, why are you still living in a city? And especially, like, as I put it, like the authoritarian gun control police state of New York.
Yeah.
Former free New York. And so why still live in a city and why having kids?
I am working on it, to be honest. My wife is an actor, such as you were, and feels...
I still am. You're never going to stop being an actor. I think you can just tell by... I'm an attention whore. And
at least you have thoughts in your head. That's good.
Yeah.
A lot of the actors I meet are empty shells looking for for input.
Dude, you know what though? That makes you a better actor because I like when I'm like thoughtless and like truly relaxed. Those are my best performances.
Yeah, no, totally. I actually
But
have to go act in something fairly shortly, so we should wrap up soon. But
yeah,
let's.
I got to take my kid to his swim lesson too.
Oh,
Um, so
nice.
so why have so why a kid? Why still in the city?
I personally, I would like to get out of the city for sure. I can.
For,
I
for,
only see the situation getting more scary. Like even in the past few years, I live in Ridgewood right now, in like a
right.
Polish family neighborhood, so it's very
Yeah.
quiet. But I've noticed like younger and younger people moving here, and I'm noticing more screaming, fights in the street, more cops zipping around with sirens. Like you can feel the tension ratcheting up.
Palpable.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
freaky.
Yeah.
So I think eventually we're gonna duck out, but
For
yeah.
where? What's like the top three?
I don't know. That's the problem. I visited Austin for the first time this year. Thought it was pretty cool. I like the surrounding area. I wouldn't be
It
against
sucks.
that. That's what people
Fucking
say.
sucks, dude. I live in Austin. It sucks. And here's the thing: for me,
Like
Austin
city
was.
proper.
I'm 12 minutes from the capital.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Am I close enough? It's not. It's not. Nowhere here is a real city.
Right, right.
It's just like. Ugh. Anyways, there's no real restaurants. The best food comes off of food trucks, which like thanks. You're sweating your ass off and fighting bugs for your meal. And you don't have any service. Like, you can't get a refill on something. It's like, you're mowing down your barbecue burrito from Rollin' Smoke, which is like the best barbecue in Texas. Check them out next time you're in town. And
Nice.
it's like shit. I'm like covered in shit, and I already killed my can of soda. Like I gotta get up and get another one. Like, um, the air quality here is terrible. I was up north, in May, came
Mm,
back, got I had COVID like the day that I came, like the next day.
mm.
I didn't know what it was. I thought I was just reacclimating to like the bullshit air quality down here. It's that bad. And I went to work every day. I went to University of Texas at 4:30 in the morning and was attempting to run the stairs of an 8-level parking structure with weights on me. I'm like, fuck it, dude. Just like force it. Just tell your body what to do. You were used to this bullshit air before you left a couple weeks ago. You're gonna get used to it again. And then like by day 5, I thought that the pain in my back
Mm,
was from like I pulled something or whatever. So I stayed home from work, and eventually I'm like, you know what? I got these at-home tests
mm.
popped for COVID, and I'm like, motherfucker, they finally got me.
That's hilarious.
Um,
Yeah, I
but for
don't.
me,
Oh, go ahead. Go
for,
ahead.
for me, the having a kid thing is, who better to inherit the earth?
Yeah.
Like again, like it's not a mistake that you've got the brain between your ears that you have. You got this nice symmetrical face. You got so much hair on your head, dude. I need to borrow some of that shit. Like my God, that
You
that
you
that
you sacrifice your hair for that quality jizz because
right.
apparently high
Testosterone, yeah,
T people lose their hair. So yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
gotta I gotta work on my tea, bro.
There's a thing in Italy, uh, chicks they seek out bald
Bald
guys.
guys.
They fuck all night. Yeah. You want to end on that?
I can't promise all night, but I'll do my darn best.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Um.
Yeah, man. As far as where to live, I don't know. New Hampshire's kind of interesting, just because that Free
It
State
is.
Project thing.
It is. Yeah.
But I'm not sold on any location really. My
Hmm.
heart goes back to upstate New York because it's where I'm from, and
Dude, I love it out there. I really
yeah.
do. Like, again, I'm from Connecticut. I dated a girl from Saugerties.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, she was babysat by Jimmy Fallon. She was, Yeah, he was her next door neighbor.
That's wild.
Um,
But you're right about the laws, though. Like, actual New York State laws are gnarly,
I'm,
and the
every
taxes, and I just
dude.
feel like I'm getting made poorer by the year by the
Well,
state.
it's not just that, but like anytime I visit the East Coast, I'm a felon because of this.
That's wild.
You know, I always I got a Connecticut concealed carry license, but
Right.
I don't own any 10 round magazines.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I promise like the cops or whatever, like, yeah, I'm only going to put 10 in here.
You're
I know
still
that
a
I only
felon.
have 10 chances to vote in a fight for my life that I didn't start. Sir, thank you. You know,
That's hilarious.
um, but yeah, it's like just because of that, this fucking thing right here, I'm a felon. Like
Yeah.
it's
It makes no sense, man.
well, we did get a big win in the Supreme Court recently. That same ruling that says that like states like New York can't, have you vet or qualify. Does your life require? Is it good enough for you to try and defend it from that maniac with a box opener?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that same law, it actually settled the case that this guy had where he was like making or buying and selling full auto guns and parts. No, it's parts.
Mm,
It's basically, like, I think this guy was like selling a kit that like when you get it and then when you assemble it and then when you put it in,
mm,
like one workaround, like we got 30 round magazines, like capacity magazines, right? So this is the bottom plate. You can slide that off. This up here is called a follower. That's what pushes the rounds into the weapon. And then, of course, there's a spring. So it's like this is a parts kit. You take it apart. So for places like Washington that banned these as they're together, it's like, yeah, it is just a parts kit. There you
that's
go.
funny.
Like that happens there. That happened in Virginia or West Virginia when their magazine ban went through or whatever.
Mm,
You know, um, it's a problem because like any law, I don't care if you care about guns or not. Like any law, like we'll get back to like the speech laws.
mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a cop. I'm not gonna enforce somebody making a post against this Republican president. You know, well, fucking 5-10 years when you're fired for a bunch of arbitrary shit or you get run out of your job, and then they're gonna hire people who are more of a yes man than you, and they care more about their own pension than they do about a regular civilian's ability to live in peace and say what the
Mm-hmm.
fuck they want about whatever president, no matter what party they belong to.
Right.
Yeah, and that's how it happens. They're doing that with the military and everything else. Anyways,
Yep.
you got to go. I know you probably can't talk about what you're acting in because you don't want to give anything away.
No, no. It's my I host a video show with my friend Whitley, and we're both making videos this week. So I'm gonna act in hers. I'm playing I think an uninterested boyfriend of some sort. I don't quite know. I haven't been given any lines, so I think it's a music video, so it'll just mostly be.
Make it so that he's on a vegan diet, so he's just like
I'm too
and
fat.
he's
I have to
playing
lose
video
weight.
games,
Yeah.
you know.
I'll just cover my face in sores, and we'll
Yeah,
go from there. Well,
yeah,
dude, this was super fun. We'll have to do this again.
yeah, absolutely.
I'd
Yeah.
love to talk more. You're very knowledgeable. I'd love to talk more. Just general news stories would be interesting. I think just to go over stuff together.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm one of those people like you hear Doug Stanhope talking about like he spent so many years just absorbing like how fucked everything is and who's planning it and all this other stuff and like all the wheels that are in motion. He just got to a point where he's like, I'm only gonna be drinking and smoking myself to death. Okay, like, I'm not there yet.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. You
and I'm
gotta,
kind
you
of
gotta.
scared that I'll never get there where I just don't want to know about everything. But I did. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good. It's good to be there because at least you're prepared, as they say.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was very fun. This is Kyle Page. I'm excited to buy some of your coffee when that launches. When are you thinking
Yeah.
that'll be?
So we're piecing it together, right? Like I've got full runs of like all my T-shirts and coffee mugs done. Now I got to like pay all that shit off.
Mm.
So then the next phase is going to be going to print with stickers and patches. Why stickers and patches? It's part of my demographic, right? So, and then after that, coffee bags themselves, shipping materials. So like we're piecing it out. I'm actually taking a job soon. I'm going to be working on the weekends where I'm really going to be able to dump all the money from that income stream right to getting the company launched. But I mean, hopefully, like before Christmas,
Nice.
it's just everything's ready to go. Everything's ready to go.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just that the increase in getting things done and slow up of getting things manufactured or made is made it a little bit tumultuous.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
I'm stoked, All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Very, very cool, man. We'll do this again for sure.
I hope so.